Good evening and welcome to this December 19th, 2023 special meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Could we please have a roll call?
Chair Greenfield.
Here.
Vice Chair Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Cribbs.
Here.
Commissioner Freeman.
Here.
Commissioner Oche.
Here, please.
Chair, that's 5 present.
Thank you. And if there are any members of the public who would like to speak to an item that's not on the agenda this evening, whether in person or remotely, please raise your hand via Zoom or fill out a speaker card.
Chair, I'm seeing no hands raised online or in person.
Thank you. Then we'll proceed with agenda changes, additions, and deletions. Any comments from anyone? Joy?
For the November meeting.
No, I'm sorry, we're not at the minutes yet.
Oh, okay.
We're just talking about the agenda changes, the agenda as it stands. I'm not sure that we'll need 20 minutes for the department report today. So that's probably more in the 5-minute range. Just if anybody's looking to plan the time for the business items that follow after that. So we'll allocate 5 minutes for the department report, but we give it whatever it needs anyway. So, all right, let's move on then to the approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes to approve this evening. The first is from the October 24th meeting. Does anyone have any comments or changes recommended for that meeting? Yes, Commissioner Oche.
Yeah. So for the November meeting,
I'm sorry, we're on the October meeting right now.
Oh, I thought I had
I sense some eagerness here. So it sounds like we're good with the October meeting to the extent that we can remember what happened then. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the October minutes.
Thank you, Vice Chair Brown. And could we have a second on that motion, please?
I'll second.
Thanks. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Greenfield.
Yes.
Vice Chair Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Cribbs.
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman. Yes. Commissioner Oche.
Yes, please.
Chair, that's a 5-0 vote.
Thank you. Next up is the approval of draft minutes for the November 28th, 2023 meeting. Does anyone have any comments or suggestions regarding these minutes?
Thank you, Chair. Line 26 is a very minor change. So tracking should be applying project management, not tracking project management per se. Thank you.
Any other changes to suggest? Thank you. Then can we get a motion to approve these minutes, please?
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Shea. And roll call vote, please.
Chair Greenfield.
Yes.
Vice Chair Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Cribbs. Commissioner Freeman. Yes. Commissioner Oche.
Yes, please.
Chair, that's a 5-0 vote.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to the department report.
Good evening, commissioners. Nice to see you all. I'm happy to be back. I'm sitting here with all of you. I'll be filling in for Darren until we have his replacement, and then we'll probably be here a little bit after that too. So you'll have to get used to me and my style. I know it's not quite up to par with Darren's, but here I am. So I'm going to start with recruitment. So amazing news for the department, community services. We have hired an assistant director for the arts and sciences role. So the individual, her name is Amanda Demmel. She comes from the city of Renton, Washington, and she'll be starting January 16th. One of the tasks that's been added to this assistant director's oversight is adding inclusion and accessibility for the entire department. So that would include our recreation programs, not necessarily ADA accessibility for physical facilities because that's in Public Works, but can definitely advise on that. But she will have oversight on that. It's something that's really a goal of mine, is to improve our ability to communicate and serve our residents who need special attention to accessibility, to make sure that we're providing programs and services that are inclusive of everyone in the community. The other then is the recruitment for Darren's position. That's the Assistant Director of Open Space, Parks and Golf. We are all set to begin that recruitment in January. We have an external executive recruiting firm who specializes in public agency recruitments who will be leading that for us. We're waiting till the holidays are over before we post that, but we're ready as soon as January hits, we'll have that posted. So I'll make sure I share the brochure and posting with all of you so you can reach out to your networks as well. And then moving to special events, on Monday, January 15th, which is a city holiday, or a federal holiday, we are continuing the tradition of partnering with Youth Community Service, the JCC, or the Jewish Community Center, and East Palo Alto in offering the Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. So it has evolved over the past few years, and I think it's a great model and a great event. So in the morning, there are service projects throughout the city, City of Palo Alto and City of East Palo Alto. And then in the afternoon, people can come to Mitchell Park Community Center and enjoy the event that Youth Community Service puts on. And you can find the list of service opportunities. It's currently on the JCC's website, and then it will eventually get to the YCS Youth Community Services website. But if you're interested, check out the JCC's website. Next slide. So some project updates. Last month, Darren reported that the skate park parking analysis was almost complete. So it is complete now, and it's been submitted to our planning department for review. Some progress with our Recreation Wellness Center. So we have a community meeting scheduled for January 17th at 6:30 p.m. and that will be at Mitchell Park Community Center. And that will be a hybrid meeting so people can join in person or online. And I think we'll probably report back to the commission at some point after that. And then with respect to the Palo Alto Little League, or with Hoover Park Fields, the Palo Alto Little League and the city are partnering on doing some improvements on those fields. So expanding the size of the dirt infield. Again, a partnership with the Little League and the city parks team. So the volunteers with Little League actually removed all of the extra turf that needed to be removed and composted it. The city parks team reconfigured the irrigation system as a result, and that is scheduled to reopen February 3rd. So a great example of a partnership with staff and a community organization to get a project done. And then annually, we do some renovations of our sports fields. So Cubberley and at the Baylands Athletic Field, those are both being done in the winter. That involves filling any holes or divots that might have occurred throughout the playing season. And those will both open in the beginning of the year. So I think what Darren did was just focus on changes to the CIP project. So none on this page, Javad, so you can go to the next one. So El Camino Park Synthetic Turf Replacement Project, that's currently in the design phase. It's estimated to go out to bid in February, and construction is expected to start in the spring. The Mitchell Park Dog Park Project, estimated to go out to bid in January, and construction start also in spring. And then we completed the net replacement at the Mitchell Park Playground. That was completed November 30th. And that's all I had for updates to capital improvement projects. And I regret to inform you, I do not have a notes on nature, or I don't remember what it was called, but I do not have that. So my apologies.
Thank you. That was something we started up.
In October, I think, right? Yeah.
So we're losing momentum, but we'll strive to regain it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners or comments regarding the department report?
Well, the comments for the report was very good, so thank you very much. On the Little League project, was there funding from the community that went into that? Do you know?
I do not know. Do you know, Lam? For the Palo Alto Little League
Hoover
city
Park.
staff partnership project at Hoover Park, did they raise any funds or contribute funds, or was it volunteer hours?
My understanding is volunteer hours and coordination with the city provided material and seats and costs to use of the conference.
Great, thank you. And then back to the new staff person who's coming to the Arts Center and the study and the work that she is going to be doing. Is there any opportunity for that specific gender study to get folded into that in the future?
That would a great opportunity. So that's also something I'm really interested in completing. So yeah, well, we can talk about that more and see if that's the right fit for her or for someone else. So
Great, thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Yeah, so I just, on the Palo Alto Little League, Mark did a very good job of summarizing all of that and sending it out to the stakeholders. So it was a very well done summary, and some of the feedback I've heard has been pretty positive on that. So thank you for that. That's
Great.
good.
Thank you for sharing. I'll let him know.
I have a question regarding the increase of the base or the increase of the dirt area. Was that to increase the base path length, or was it so that this is the initiative that there was discussion about trying to make changes at El Camino Park at one point?
Same changes. yeah,
Same
they
changes
extended
that
the
weren't
base
possible.
Come up to the mic. Sorry, I
Yeah.
forgot to tell you, Lon.
of the spot.
Don't fall.
Good evening, Adam Howard, Senior Community Services Manager with the Recreation Department. Yeah, it was to extend the basis so that they could offer the little bit older of an age group there. I think it's a 5-foot extension of the base path,
Yeah.
and both will still be available.
Yeah, as I recall, it's kind of a middle range between the
Yeah, it's so that there's a step between typical Little League and then the 90-foot bases. It allows just for a little bit smaller steps before you get to the full-size field.
Great, thank you. Joy?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Christine. Thank you for the report. I'm just super excited about the MLK Day celebration. So kudos to the JCC and the city and also all the partners. I have a quick question about the link. You said it's going to be on the JCC website. How do residents find that? That's one. My second question is for the parking, the skate park analysis. How long does it typically take for the review? And what's next after the analysis or the review of the analysis?
So I'll start with the MLK link. That will eventually be on both the city's website and the YCS's website and the JCC, and we'll blast that out to everybody. They feel really fast, but we still want all the information out there. And then we'll have what we call overflow events where there's no cap. So like as many people that want to come out will be out. So we'll have a lot of opportunities available for everybody.
Awesome, thank you. The skate park analysis.
Oh, the skate park analysis. I thought Adam was gonna come and I'm just gonna go and have him fill in. Lom, do you have a update on that?
Good evening, Commission. Lam Do with the Division of Open Space, Parks and Golf. We have received that initial analysis, but we have not really been able to dive deeply into it. We anticipate working on it towards the early in the calendar year, and I can report back to you next month. Thank you.
I have a question about the skate park since we're talking about it. So Lon, what do you see as perhaps the role of the ad hoc or the group that was convened and the skaters in the community going forward? Is that still in process, or, you know, some of us were involved in the planning for quite a while?
Yes. So there are multiple perspectives to this, and it'll kind of tie in a little bit to our presentation later this evening on capital improvement projects. At present, it is not a capital improvement project. It's still in the development phases. And so we continue to welcome the input from the ad hoc. And then there's also other perspectives that we need to look at, not just the design, but further outreach, and then also how we want to go about proposing and finding a funding source. So all the perspectives that were the work that the ad hoc did with our prior colleague Darren will continue as well, and we'll gladly take all that feedback.
So just in the planning, what was happening is that the Friends of the Parks, I believe, are waiting to get the skate park analysis, the traffic analysis, before the department gave the go-ahead and start raising the money. That I believe that the Friends of the Park are all set up to take contributions, but it's kind of like we had to have the parking analysis first, and once we have that, then it appeared that that was a go-ahead kind of thing. Nellis, is that your, pardon me?
No, I can't remember.
Okay.
I'll double check on that and get back to you whether that's
Yeah.
where it was left off. I do like to advise though that it's not just only within the community service department that we would need to dive into the
Public Works
assessment.
as well.
Yes, Public Works and Transportation as well. So those are 3 departments. So it's not something that I can necessarily provide a definitive green light, and I don't think that's something that we could right off the bat provide an update, maybe a progress update in January, but I don't know if we'll be able to give the
That's
a
fine.
green light
I just-
update at that time.
Sam, the leader of the skate park, I believe is now a freshman at Boulder at the University of Colorado. So I didn't know whether we had reached out to him or where we are with that. So it's good. Yeah, whatever we can learn about that would be important. Thank you.
Yes.
So we've been working on the skate park for a while, and we've got sidetracked a bit while we're waiting for the parking analysis. So, and I understand multiple eyes need to review it, but whatever we can do to prioritize this and if not fast track it, at least keep it moving on the rails. We're definitely we want to encourage that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, maybe I should have done it at the top of the meeting, but I want to welcome Kristen back to the commission.
Thank you.
As our liaison. It's been an acting role or not, but it's not a role that she's unfamiliar with, and she served as the liaison for the commission for how many years? 3 or 4?
A few, yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Okay. We'll now move on to our first business item, the aquatics annual report.
Sure. And I would like to introduce Tim Sheeper, who will be presenting on the annual report. So please join us.
Thank you. Tim Sheeper from Team Sheeper, the provider of aquatic services at Rinconada Pool. And I thought I would just open up tonight with and provide a summary of 6 profiles of the community members who use the pool. And these summaries come from the data that we collect on a daily basis of the users and the data from the annual surveys. So a profile of the general pool user, and a general pool user is anybody who comes in for lap swim, open swim, or just any type of program. A profile is it's a resident of Palo Alto. They're highly satisfied with the lifeguarding staff. They like the customer service they receive, and they're highly satisfied with pool water quality and facility cleanliness. A second profile is of a lap swimmer. That's a resident of Palo Alto, has been a user of the pool for an extended number of years. There's a 50-50 chance that they are 60 or over. They purchase a monthly swim membership because of the great value. They swim about 9 times per month. And they're highly satisfied with the amount of time, space, and options to swim throughout the week. If they had one wish, though, they would wish that they could swim later into each evening. The third profile is of an open swimmer or recreation swim. And this is mostly done during the summer. So these are, they're not a resident of Palo Alto. They mainly purchase a family day pass to use the facility. They stay at the pool with their family for most of the afternoon. They love the play pool atmosphere and the diving boards. And they love that the pool is well monitored and maintained. And they also wish that the pool is open later into the evening and open more weeks during the year. The fourth profile is of a summer camp. They love the fact that there's a premium swim lesson every day of camp. They're impressed with the counselors and swim instructors, and they believe that the camp is a great value and that it's very safe. The fifth profile is of a swim lesson participant and family. They're highly satisfied with the instructors and the pricing and the safety, although they wish that there were more options to put their kids in swim lessons. And then lastly, it's the master swim profile. They're most likely a resident of Palo Alto, and they're under 60 years old. They're satisfied with the fee structure and safety. They're highly satisfied with their overall experience and the coaching. They want more workout opportunities to swim, especially at night. And they would rather do all their swimming at Rinconada, even if there were more chances to swim at other sites. So that was just a way I thought I could summarize briefly what was in this extensive report. And I welcome any questions on the report or any clarifications on the report.
Well, thank you for joining us again, Tim. I appreciate all of the great work you do at the pool for our community and bringing aquatics programs and recreation opportunities to our community. Commissioners have questions, comments?
I do.
Commissioner Archer, let's start with you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much, Tim, for sharing. It's obvious you're doing a great job. So that's why we have very many feedbacks from the 5 profiles you shared. I'm just curious to know how the feedback is collected, and also what, how we respond to areas of opportunities like improvement that most users may have voiced out. How do we address it and how can we help?
First, the answer to the first part of your question is, we send out the annual survey near the end of the year. And it goes out to the numbers of participants who used the facility through lap swim, open swim. And I think our numbers that we reach out to have been increasing. I think from my recollection, it's like 2,500 people. And the second part of your question is, how do we respond to their needs and their desires and their wants? Is that we're constantly trying to do that. And we have, for instance, in the lap swim realm of the users at Rinconada, they formed a Friends of Rinconada. So they formed a group, and we've been able to meet with them a few times per year and listen to what their needs are, and alter our operations, our offerings, and our pricing structure based on the feedback we were receiving from them. And we have a good understanding of, I think we have a good understanding of what the community needs for open and swim school. And I think what where we are right now is we're still rebuilding from the pandemic, and we're restructuring all of our management team, and we've been able to improve and make our hiring a little more robust and use staff members from both of our city facilities that we use. And I think we're this year, I'm really optimistic about the number of hours that we're going to be able to provide for swim lessons, and for open swim, we'll be able to expand.
Thank you. So part of the reason why I asked is because Commissioner Way, who isn't here today, is also part of the ad hoc for recreation programs. And I'm not too sure if we have a long wait list for swim school during summer, because I know a lot of summer programs tend to, fill up really fast. So I'm just wondering, if that's also a gap, and, thinking about ways we could fill that gap.
I think the way we're working on filling that gap is we want to provide these swim lessons that you speak of much longer than just during the summer. So we're going to start in the spring and bring it all the way through to the fall, and potentially all year round. I mean, that's the path that we were on in 2019. To provide a year-round swim school, and then things changed. The world changed a little bit, and so we're back on track, and that's what we hope to do at Rinconada Pool.
Thank you. Thank you. I have probably a lot of questions. Thanks for the report, first of all. It was great to read it and see all the comparisons, especially between the cities and the hours and all of that. I'm glad you talked a little bit about staff. Are you having trouble attracting staff, or are we good with that now coming out of COVID?
We're doing really well.
Yeah,
we're pleased with where we're at, and I think we've set up a model, and that's really sustainable. Yes.
And then about pool availability, there was a lot of in the profiles. There were a lot of we'd like more, we want more lap swim, we want more lessons, we want more this, more that. Who's got the pool in the early and late evening? Is it all swim team, or is it laps and masters as well?
currently it's mostly youth swim team.
Mm-hmm.
And they start using the pool at 4 o'clock and they've been finishing at 8. And that started during the pandemic and went through this year. In 2024, the hours will be changing, and we will be providing and programming swim lessons in a couple of those lanes in the afternoon, starting at 4 o'clock. So if the first thing that we wanted to really add and provide was the swim lessons, number one, right? Teach more kids in the community to swim. So I think it's going to be, it's 2 lanes that we'll have in the big performance pool and the entire play pool in the afternoons. Now, the play pool is really only viable for real introductory, real small kids. And once they're able to start moving through the water on their own power, that's when we put them in the bigger pool. And so we've been able to work with PASA and secure those lanes, share those lanes, and we'll be starting those swim lessons in I think it's the April time period.
Well, I'm really happy to hear about the swim lessons, and especially the swim lessons for the future, because I feel like it's really, really, really important to make sure that we provide the opportunity for everybody to learn how to swim, even if they don't want to. And I'm talking about adults and kids, because it's, as you well know, I'm not just preaching to the choir here, but it's so important for people to learn how to swim. And it's a big, big cause of death for young adults as well. So I'm really glad we're doing that. And I'm just trying to see if we have enough space, access, and opportunity. So thank you for that. And I will continue to send you all those Learn to Swim programs and what US Swimming is doing and all of that. I'm sure it's kind of a pain in the neck, but
no, it's
sending them along.
It's welcome.
I had a specific question about lap swimmers. For the older lap swimmers who have trouble getting out of the Rinconada pool because of the lip and the way the pool goes. So some of them feel like, what should they do? Should they just go across people's lanes and say, excuse me, and go to the ladder? Or what are you all recommending? This is a specific question that somebody asked me, so I think it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, from my point of view, I think Rinconada is one of the easiest pools to get out of, since the water line is right at the deck level. So there's cantilevered pools that the water and the deck, there's a 18-inch difference. So the water on the deck at Rink is the easiest of pools to get out. As far as using the ladders and going across lanes, yes, I think that's the best way to it's just like you're crossing a street. You're just waiting for an opening in the lane. You're communicating with that person in the lane if they're at the wall resting that you're going through. And most of the lap swimmers most, if not all the lap swimmers are very courteous in that way. Yeah.
Well, I will stop my questions now and see if other commissioners would like to say something, but I want to thank you for all the work that you're doing, Tim. And also the fact that I think the communication from Team Sheeper to the community must be pretty strong, and back the other way as well, because I don't see a lot of people here talking about more time and swimming and all of that. So that's a good thing coming out of COVID for sure. So thank you.
Thank you.
Just following up on the issue of some people having difficulty getting out of exiting the pool. Is this something new at all, or this is just a?
No, I don't think it's anything new. The pool hasn't changed. It's just that people, a lot of seniors are doing lap swimming, And it's a little intimidating in a really big pool like Rinconada, which is a beautiful pool, to get to the end of your lane and think, okay, how am I gonna get out of this pool without somebody giving me a hand and pulling me out? Because not everybody is strong enough to put their arms
I
on the
understand,
side
sure.
and jump out. So no, it's not, I don't think it's a new thing. I think it's just something people, as more people are lap swimming and are not doing masters, that people are thinking about.
And are the ladders only on the sides of the pools?
Yeah, they're at the four corners.
Right.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be practical to consider adding more ladders.
Yeah.
No.
It's not enough of an issue. Okay, thank you. Other commissioners, Nels?
Yeah, Jim, thanks. Good job as you did last time, and the report is very informative, very detailed. But I was curious though, you said this, and sounds like you're right on target with knowing what your audience and what they want, and also the good feel for residents versus non-residents, and just breaking it down the way you did also made it very well to understand. Is there a reason why I guess you limit the number of people you send your surveys to? You mentioned, I was looking at the numbers where, I guess in 2023, something like 2,700, and it seems like that's the number, even at the previous years, but I think I saw somewhere where you have about 48,000, both residents and non-residents, or is there a reason why you don't, I guess, just blanket the entire community to get to see if the stats really come out the way that they should?
I don't think we limit or cap or segment the list. I think it's just our entire list. And anybody who has an account or with us at that time, or or use the facility in that year, we send the survey to.
Okay, so you're not to your entire community, just whoever's used it in that particular year, is what you're saying?
Well, I guess that is our entire, so people who come in for drop-in, they don't set up an account.
Okay.
So we don't have access to their contact information if they're just coming in for a lap swim or no limit swim.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's anybody who's set up a monthly membership with us.
Thank you. And the other, as far as it sounds like you have a lot of people that want to take advantage of a lot of the swim programs and so forth. Is there any, I guess, need to reach out, partnering with any of the other communities or private clubs and so forth? Is that something that's needed
For additional pool
for additional
space?
pool space? Yeah.
I think in our area that we live in, whatever pool space is available will be used. The demand is higher than the supply. Yeah, and especially right in the heart of Palo Alto here.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Mandy?
Thank you for your report. It's a great amount of information. Is there any groups or gaps that you feel that were not included in the report that you have information on, either anecdotally or just from your years of experience and trends that you're seeing that you want to share with us, sort of beyond the quantitative numbers?
Gaps. I see one gap is that therapeutics, exercise, pool would be something that has been that we haven't really provided at Rinconada, and a large, or the main reason for that is water temperature. So Rinconada is one big facility. It's more of a competition performance type of pool where the water is kept at 80 degrees, and a instructional / therapeutic therapy pool. when either the person learning to swim or the person rehabbing or strengthening in the water is not really moving that much. They need a warmer temperature to be really comfortable in the range of like 86 to 90 degrees. And usually in a pool, it's maybe a little bit smaller. So I think that is I see one of the biggest gaps for Rinconado Pool. The other one is family locker rooms. I think that is something that you know I see, especially in the when families are coming during the warm months, and it's hard to have you know fathers take care of their daughters who are and so it's a difficult situation that other pools, that the newer pools coming on and that are being built really have focused on family locker rooms or family changing rooms, family shower rooms. So those are the two things that just come top of mind.
Great, thank you. And then lastly is, I believe there's not a water babies class offered at Rinconada currently, or there wasn't when I last checked.
Yeah.
But I've very much enjoyed the other Team Sheeper location for the water babies class. So thank you for that. And if once he can be in one in Palo Alto or find space, we'll be moving back to Rinconada.
Yeah, we have, thank you for that. And yeah, that desire is that. So we have our swim school director is the director over all the sites. And so with the more space that we've been able to secure and with the staff that we've been able to train, you know, look forward on the schedule for the spring.
Thank you. Nice personal insights. Could you give an overview of where swim lessons will be offered in 2024? What sites? Are you using any of the school pools? Or anywhere besides Rinconado?
Currently, the focus is going to be to really make Rinconado a robust site for swim lessons using the play pool for the water babies and then the level 1 and 2 kids. So they're getting comfortable with the pool, and then the level 3 and level 4 will go into the bigger competition pool. So they move a little bit more, they can keep their bodies warm, and they can be able to focus and actually learn. The play pool it's a little bit little challenging for our instructors because the water is anywhere from 2 to 3.5 feet, and instructors are 5.5 to 6 feet tall. So and to teach a lesson on your knees is there. Some people are good at, but does pose a little bit of a challenge. So it's not the optimum pool for teaching, but it is the optimum pool for summer playtime and one of the best pools in the area. And that's why it attracts so many people from the surrounding communities because of the amenities and the way it's structured. So nothing against that play pool. It's a wonderful thing for the community. Yeah.
So and this could be a question for staff as well. When was the last time we used other pools in the community for swim lessons? It's just, it sounds like logistically this would be more difficult for you if this were done, but I know it has been a benefit to the community for people in South Palo Alto to have lessons offered at JLS or at Gunn, for example, and this is a potential for adding additional infrastructure resources which could potentially increase the number of lessons and programs offered to the community. And it
Well-
sounds like staff might have some input here as well.
Our, and I welcome their input, but, so our partnership with the city of Palo Alto started in 2016. When, community services had swim lessons at JLS and at, Rinconada Pool. And so, we, provided the swim lessons that were off-site, and the city provided them at Rinconada. And
I'm sorry, by offsite, do you mean JLS?
yes, so we focused on bringing the instructors and do an instruction there. So we're not there yet because that requires a whole new staff, a whole new leadership group, and that's just building, like, that's bringing on a whole nother site for a temporary site, and there's some unique challenges to that. I think would like to just really focus on doing the best possible job at Rinconada for 2024.
So from a staff perspective, is it a priority? Or do we have input from the community? Or is there thoughts within staff? Is this a priority to expand the location of lessons?
Thank you for that question. I don't have any information on whether we've been receiving community input on expanding lessons to the other pools. I also don't know what the school district has at those schools in the summer, so we would have to look into that as well. So I don't really have any information.
I think some of this discussion comes from way back in the master plan about how do we work together with the school district. We as a city work together with the school district to maximize the resources that we have that are existing right now. Because I'm sure everybody knows that there's discussion about, wouldn't it be nice to have a pool in South Palo Alto? Wouldn't it be nice to have an indoor pool? To speak to Tim's comments about more therapeutic and more lesson time and that kind of thing. And some of the lap swimmers that would rather not swim outdoors. And so if we could just look at the available pool time that we have right now, and then see how to maximize that, that would be great. And Tim would be a big help, and everybody and the staff would also be a big help. Adam, I'm sure you have, a lot of background in all of that. And I know that the comment about if you have a pool, it will be used is absolutely true. And so there's always need for more pool space.
Thank you. Just before we move forward, I just want to provide an opportunity for any members of the public to speak on this. I forgot to ask about that earlier. Is there anyone on?
I'm seeing no hands raised online or in person.
Thank you, Javad. Okay, then let's continue with this discussion. So I would assert, I don't think we need a survey to ask parents of families in South Palo Alto, would they like to, would they enjoy an opportunity to have swimming lessons at a pool that's closer to them where they can more easily walk or bike there to JLS or Gunn. I mean, I think there is a community need, as Commissioner Cribbs mentioned, there we are looking to sort out how to maximize the use of resources we have in the community. I fully appreciate it's not simply flicking a switch in terms of logistics required to manage a program like that. I don't know what the availability is from the school district. I would like to get I think it'd be helpful to get a better understanding of that. We're probably I don't know if we're too late to be considering anything for the coming calendar year. But if that's the case, then if we could at least be looking towards how to expand the footprint of our offerings for the following year, I think it would be a benefit to the community. If there's no other comments, I have a couple other questions or comments. Okay. Notice that the survey response rate is 8%. It was 16% in 2020. Would it be safe to say that the lower response rate correlates with more positive survey results, or if when people have more issues with things, there's more people that will speak?
That was my first take on it. That was the period of time where we were working with the lap swim group and sorting out issues with the lap swim and the masters group. And I think we're moving forward and past that. So that's just speculation on my part. Yeah.
Just looking at the number, 8% isn't a high number. Would there be value in trying to get a greater level of response? And is that something that we could push for, take measures to help?
I agree with that. Yes. It just helps us.
Thank you. And there's a lot of input looking for more swim opportunities later in the day. Is that referring to the 4 to 8 p.m. window, or are there windows after 8 p.m. that people are looking for swim access as well?
It's after work hours. So it's usually in the people who are commenting on that were mainly lap swimmers and master swimmers. So the adult set, and yeah, so it'd be that 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
And the pool closes at 8 p.m.
Pool closes at 8 p.m.
And would there be demand to keep the pool open later?
I'm sure there would be a small demand to keep it open later. Yeah, we did a little bit of that during the pandemic, and so there was some use, but it's definitely not prime time.
Okay, that's all I've got. Any other follow-up questions or comments from commissioners? Staff
Yeah,
comments?
just
Sorry, go ahead.
one last one. And I think we talked a little bit about the fee structure last time. Is that sort of settle in that people are pretty happy with the fees that are being charged now, or is there still?
Sorry.
No, I was just going to ask it. Is that still kind of is that still out there as far as people about? I know there were an adjustment on the senior pricing, but have you heard anything since that time?
I haven't heard a lot, and that's why the survey is nice for me to see too. Like, where do people stand on our prices and our cost structures, our pricing structures, and it was nice to see that it's usually in that 75% range where people are satisfied or highly satisfied with that. So that was like, well, that's good information. And then when I was able to research our prices and how they compared to others in the municipal space community from San Francisco down to San Jose, it's competitive, and for the amount of offering that we have, the time and the space, I think it surpasses what we're what other people have to use in the community, or comparisons, if you will.
Thank you.
Others? Any staff comments?
Yes, thanks. The one comment I will make is we do have a CIP for a family changing room. I don't have the status. It is in the budget book. It's to be designed this fiscal year and built next fiscal year. So I'll follow up with the status on that. It wouldn't be, very large probably, as what would be ideal, but it would provide some additional privacy for, the examples that you used, Tim. So hopefully we'll get that in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I feel like that changing room has been on there for a long time, maybe 7 years or something, as a request from the community, and somehow it keeps getting pushed down a little bit, understandably, but hopefully it can come to the top pretty soon. So.
Yep, thanks for pointing that out. And reminding us on that. And a lot of things take time, and we're happy when they finally come to fruition. There's no other comments. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for all the work you do for the community. Thanks for putting the presentation or the detailed report together for us. And look forward to seeing you on this time next year.
Thank you.
Next up is Park and Recreation PAUSD partnership discussion.
I will go ahead and introduce Adam Howard, our Senior Community Services Manager, who will be presenting on this item.
Thank you. Let me get this started if I can. There we go. Yeah, thank you. So Adam Howard, Senior Community Services Manager. I'm in here today to discuss a couple partnerships that we have with the Palo Alto Unified School District. And this is in connection with the master plan goal 5.F, which is to enhance partnerships and collaborations with Palo Alto Unified School District and Stanford University to support access and joint use of facilities where appropriate for effective delivery of services and programs. Stanford University is in the goal. At this point, there's no traction there, but we do have some things with Palo Alto Unified School District. So we'll discuss those. We have the middle school athletics program and the field maintenance and use partnership. So we'll go over both of those kind of at a high level, and then we'll have time at the end for any questions that we have. So to start with middle school athletics, we use all of the space at Green, JLS, and Fletcher Middle School. We offer a wide range of sports broken up into fall, winter, and spring sports. We have some of the more, I guess you'd say, typical sports in terms of basketball and volleyball and things of that nature, but we are trying to expand to bring in some additional sports. We will be starting with co-ed pickleball this year. We also have ultimate frisbee, just in an attempt to bring some sports to kids that might not be interested in what we'll call typical sports. So this program and partnership started in 1997. Initially, there was a staff split where the schools provided athletic directors and the city provided coaches. And when we did that, there was a 50-50 revenue split. It was approximately 2009-10 where there was a change to that partnership. The city took oversight of hiring and all the positions and really started to run the program on its own. And at that point, we no longer did a revenue split. So with that current program model, the schools really provide the space. So gyms, field space, outdoor basketball courts, which is used for basketball practice, volleyball practice, tennis practice. We really use all the space that we can, and we have access to the tennis courts, and in some of the schools, the activity room, which is primarily used for wrestling. The city then provides the program oversight, purchases the equipment, manages registration, referees, league schedules, all the coaches. So we really do the programming, and they provide the space for us. This is just a snapshot of our current registration. The program typically gets somewhere between 1,000 to 1,300 registrations. That's not unique participants, right? So if they played multiple sports, we're counting that as the registrations. Our current year registration is at 942. That's, with the winter sports, sixth grade basketball and pickleball still open, so those numbers could change. And spring 2023 sports, which is tennis, wrestling, boys volleyball, track and field, ultimate frisbee, that registration takes place in January. So we'll be back to those 1,100, 1,200 numbers. It's a big program, high demand. We currently have, with all the wait lists combined, 299 wait list individuals. That number can be slightly different, right? So someone could be doing, as an example, cross country, but on the wait list for volleyball. So they might still be participating, but still could show up on a wait list. The costs of the program, our expenditures are around $530,000. That's salaries and benefits, equipment, contracts, league fees, other other things are in those fees. A big price of that is the salaries and benefits, not only for the hourly staff, but the oversight. So for some of the full-time staff, including myself, that help operate this program. It brings in roughly $400,000 based on registrations. Each sport is $335. Pickleball, which is its first year, will be a $200 registration fee. And we do offer a fee reduction program, which offers up to 50% discount. At this point, we only had 44 registrations this year that use the fee reduction program, but we do have it available. The MSA is high in demand. It's very, very popular. We can't meet that demand. That's why there is a wait list. We do everything we can to not have wait lists. That typically comes down to the number of coaches we have, or it can come down to space. Right now it's coaches. It's hard to get enough to meet the demand. There was a point where we could have enough coaches and we just plain and simply ran out of space, no matter how creative we got. And we want to make sure if you register, you play, and that your experience is positive. So, we do, even if we have enough coaches, we will limit it to the number of teams to make sure people are able to get into the gym and not just have to be outdoor practicing. But the demand is high, and the space at the three schools is crucial, right? We really need all that space to be able to hold the program as it currently is created. With just the city-owned facilities, we could still run a program, but it wouldn't be able to be near as big as it currently is. So that partnership to be able to provide the space at PUSD is very important. Another partnership that we have, maybe less known or less talked about, is the facility maintenance and use partnership. So this partnership was created to just provide more recreational space for the community to use. It started in 1995, and it provides access to the fields on elementary and middle school sites, as well as the tennis courts on high school campuses. Of course, these spaces are only available after school hours and on weekends. And in exchange, the city provides maintenance to those spaces. The fields that are in the courts that are available for drop-in service, first come, first serve, but they're also something that we can permit out for field users. If we permit out space, you can see that we have a priority list of how we broker the space. The priority broking is really designed to ensure kind of fair and equal access for Palo Alto residents. And it's a real focus on youth nonprofit organizations that really need that space to operate and are focused on the Palo Alto youth. So I think that's, an important way that we broker the space out. To maintain those spaces, it's about $1 million in maintenance costs. Those costs are evenly split with the Palo Alto Unified School District. I talked a second about permitting. So if we permit the space and there's revenue involved, there's a 60-40 split between the city and the school. The city gets 60%, the school district gets 40. That is roughly $30,000 a year to the Palo Alto Unified School District. It obviously depends on the permitting and what space is permitted and what space is used. Again, this is really important to our organizations and our community that those spaces are available to them. And it's specifically to the nonprofit organizations that run a lot of sports organizations, sports stuff that the city doesn't, but they do. And so having that space is really important. I know that was very brief, but we are open to questions. But again, just having that space available both for middle school athletics and the field space available to our organizations has been an important partnership. And those are the two that are kind of standing, but I'm open to questions.
Adam, thanks for joining us, and thank you for the overview presented and for the information in the staff report as well. It's very, very helpful, directly related to recreation programs, understanding the resources available for recreation programs, both in terms of the infrastructure and in terms of the people who help our youth enjoy these programs. Are there any comments, any members of the public who would like to speak on this?
There are no hands raised online or in person.
If anybody would like to speak on this, please raise your hand. We'll give you an opportunity to speak.
Yep, I'll monitor.
Thank you. Commissioners have some questions and comments?
Yeah, good job. It's always very clear report. On that, there's a slide before that. I just have a question about on the what's involved in the field maintenance and how do you explain that, I guess?
Yeah, so I will say that a vast majority of those costs are people costs. There's roughly 7 full-time employees that are used to maintain the fields, mowing, upkeep, extra seeding, fertilize, those kinds of things. I will say the vast majority of that cost is the people power to do all of those things.
Okay, and when you talk about that the city actually pays for the equipment, they're correct. What does that involve? Like, let's say if there was a need to put lighting on a tennis court or a pickleball court for the schools, would that be something that the city would actually be paying for?
So in that regards, I'm talking about the middle school athletics program. So it's more about basketballs, jerseys,
Oh, okay.
Rackets, those types of equipment. I don't think the large scale CIT type projects would fall under that. I think that'd fall probably under this field maintenance requirement where there's more of a 50-50 split, but I don't know that contract as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mandy?
Thanks for the presentation. Throughout these different agreements, what are some of the sticking points where either we've asked of the school district for certain use or times or benefits, or they've asked us to regulate programs in a certain way that have not been able to be accommodated? Just some of the challenges that you've experienced with these?
So I think the MSA one has been pretty good. I mean, they're pretty flexible in terms of when we need the space, we get it. They would love to rent the space when we're done, which I completely understand, but they really do allow us first shot. And if we need to make changes to our schedules, they've been very open to that. So no issues there. On the MSA side, staffing is tricky, but that's not anyone's fault. I think it's just difficult to find the right people at the right times that are available. The field and maintenance, again, I think that most of the time that contract just renews. I don't know if there's sticking points as much as I think that there's they would love the ability to rent out as well. So I think there's always that conversation about, is there times they could rent rather than us? As far as I know, that hasn't been hugely confrontational. I know that contract's coming up, but I haven't heard of any conflicts there at this time.
So when you talk about the school district wanting to rent out their facilities, there's a brokering system and there's a reservation system through the city for all of the local community groups that would like to reserve time. What type of a rental outside of this is the school district talking about that wouldn't be accommodated under what the city has set up already? And is it possible that the city could accommodate whatever the school district's looking for?
So that was
I'm not clear on the examples here.
Yeah, so that was more, I think, more like the MSA relationship, right? We use the gym until 7 or 7:30. They have the ability to rent the gym after we move out to most likely community groups. I don't know exactly, I'm assuming that's the case. So they're always just interested in, when are we done, so that they can then provide rentals to other groups.
Okay, so it's the MSA facilities. It's not the fields that you already.
No.
Thanks.
Please.
Yes.
Yes. Couple of questions. Adam, when between the school district and the city, who is providing how does the insurance work for the middle school athletic program?
The city is providing the insurance, or we're self-insured, but yes, it's covered under us.
Okay. And where are the coaches coming from?
Wherever we can find them.
Yes. Mhm.
High school students, parent volunteers, parents, everywhere. We search far and wide because we can take as many coaches as we can find.
Understood, yeah. And then in terms of the equipment, you mentioned jerseys. So do the kids get to keep their jerseys or do they have to give them back?
No. We do ask that the jerseys be returned. We obviously have to, replace jerseys every couple of years, just wear and tear. But yeah, any equipment they use for MSA, we get back, but it's a lot of wear and tear, so we do have to replace pretty frequently.
And does this program need contributions from the community? I mean, I think it's a great program and it's certainly working really well and all of that. But does it need contributions? Or are they pretty much taken care of by the scholarship program? In terms of kids who might want to play but can't because they can't afford it?
So, I think there's always support there that would be useful. I would say there's the possible gap may be in equipment. We don't hear a lot about it, but if a family can't afford, a pair of cleats, we don't ask that they wear cleats, but there might be that pressure if you're wearing out on the field to wear a pair of cleats, and our fee reduction doesn't cover that. There's been a lot of support from the school PTAs to help students, whether it's with registration or with equipment. I don't have all the details in that, but I could see where that would be something that people could use more support of. If the fee reduction gets them so they can participate, and then there's some equipment need. Now, the equipment needs that they need to bring themselves are limited: shoes, mouth guards, but we provide jerseys and balls, and the equipment you really need to play, except for mouthpieces. So it would come down to some minor things like shoes, but there are students, I'm sure, that would need that support.
And then question, let's see, about pickleball. Why is it so much less expensive than the other sports?
So it's the first time trying it.
Mhm.
So we just wanted to put it a little bit lower to make sure we had participation, but it's also not part of a league. So there will be no refereeing. There will be no scheduling with other schools. It's really just in-house. So that we could reduce the fees a little bit to make it a little bit more approachable to see how it's going to work.
Bet you if we have this conversation 4 years from now, there will be pickleball leagues.
Yeah.
Oh, there will
With
be.
different schools.
I don't, no doubt. next year is
And then
possible.
could you go back to the slide with, that shows the gender balance, the boys and the girls, please? I was interested that current registration, there seems to be around 100, a little bit less than 100. Less girls than boys. Is that because of the kinds of sports that are being played winter quarter, or is there some reason? The current, I think the current stats that I'm reading about boys and girls participation is that it's now almost equal. So that seems a little bit, but I was trying to think of my other reasons.
I would say the big reason is co-ed flag football. I think we had
Yeah.
four girls participate in that. When it comes to the boys and girls basketball and the girls volleyball, the numbers are much more even. So I think the flag football kind of skews that in some regards.
Good point. Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's really a great program. I'm glad we can offer it. I'm glad it's sustained itself. And so
Yep.
thank you for that leadership on that. I have one more question, but it's about the fields. Sorry. Are you using full-time staff of city staff for the maintenance, or is there a third-party vendor or third-party?
Lom, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're all full-time in-house employees.
Okay.
For the school fields.
Thank you.
Joy?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Adam. Commissioner Krebs already asked two of my questions. But I just wanted to ask for the fee reduction applicants, what's the ratio to the total? I know you mentioned the number. I'm also curious to know if they're all taken, or do you usually do you have a special or additional criteria to choose the fee reduction applicants?
So no, there's no cap.
So do you have like a percentage you set up for?
No. So if anyone, so registration is first come, first serve, as it does fill. But anyone can register whether they're fee reduction or not. So as long as they have fee reduction assigned to them, they will get it when they register for the middle school athletics program. I didn't run the numbers, but it's pretty small. I mean, 44 out of 942 is less than 1%. I probably should have calculated that before I said it. It's small. I think it's less than 1%.
Yeah, I asked because I'm wondering if we should have like an allocation, for that to be more inclusive to people who can afford it. So that way we have a set goal of how many people we can cater for. So I'm just saying. My other
I don't, can you repeat that just so I'm sure?
for allocation, do we want to have like a set goal for how many people we could help and track that over the years? Something like that.
Okay.
And also I wanted to find out, I know you mentioned that there might be duplicates for the wait list. Is it possible for us to track the exact wait list data for people who are not in the program and then are on the wait list for another program? So knowing the exact wait list.
It would have to be manually done. We'd have to check based on rosters. I would say the number's probably on the smaller side. So I don't anticipate there's some huge number of people that are on a wait list, but also playing in a sport. But we'd have to manually kind of cross-check the wait lists versus the rosters.
Okay, I'm asking because of the recreation program ad hoc, just to have an idea of, how we could deep dive and provide more recommendations of, better ways to whatever gaps we have to be able to address that.
The wait list is an issue. I mean, there are a lot of kids that we can't fill the demand. And to be honest, even if we had all the coaches at our hand, we still couldn't meet all of the demand just because there was a point where we had all the coaches we needed and we still just ran out of space. I mean, we even like staggering practice times late into the evening and putting people outside, we still hit kind of a point where we just couldn't go any further with the space that we have. So there is a demand issue that we can't totally satisfy. I mean, the program is huge, and I think compared to what other mostly school districts do, our program is meeting a higher demand than a lot, but we don't meet it all.
So I hear space and I hear more coaches. Would it help? I appreciate the fact that you added, the co-ed, pickleball and frisbee. Would it help to increase more program offerings, more diverse program offerings that could, meet up or help, kind of like provide a buffer for those who just extra additional options? for
Yep.
people
So I
who-
mean, I think that is our goal with when we add things like frisbee and pickleball and the sports like cross country and track and field. We often can really expand those because running around a grass field, there almost isn't a cap in terms of space. So that's really where those sports come into play. But even like, when we grow and we offer new sports, we still have to find coaches for those, so that it can be tricky there. But we do our best to like find sports where we can find people that have some expertise, but we still have to find space for them. So it's kind of that middle ground. I'll tell you right now, it's coaching, not space. It's really finding people that are available and willing during the time frame. That is our biggest restraint right now.
So do you need people who need training, and do you have like a program where you train them or train people who want to volunteer? I'm just curious to know how best we can.
I think it's more of the timing, right? Middle school athletics is after school, so some kind of 3 to 7 time. You're gonna get a couple hours a day, and it's limited availability. So we will train anyone. It's willingness, right? If you're someone is willing and caring about the students, we'll teach them the technical side of it. But there's a limited pool that's available during those times and able to fill in it for another job.
Okay, thank you. So sorry, one more question. Would it help to get the word out more? So that way we open it up because I'm 100% sure there might be people who are willing and able to do that, but they might just not know. Just creating more awareness in the community to see if we can get better response.
I would never say no to getting it out more. I feel like we do a lot. We leave no rock unturned, but the more the merrier, because the more people that we find, the better.
My last question, I promise. So you mentioned adding co-ed, pickleball and frisbee. Did we get feedback from the community to do that, or how do we decide, what to add?
So I think staff really just looks at the popularity of things that are happening in the community. We see people playing these sports out in the community, and we just try it. We do listen to community input, but we also just kind of go out and see what people are playing and see what's out on our fields. And if something's becoming popular, we try to duplicate it in the middle school athletic program. I mean, pickleball, my involvement in that is very close. So I clearly understood that. And then ultimate frisbee, actually someone approached us. It was a Stanford club team that they were just looking to expand it. And we, of course, were willing to try it. So we'll look at it in both directions.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Could you talk about what the process is for signing up for middle school athletics? And obviously there's high demand. It sounds like it's competitive to get onto the teams, not based on ability, but by registering in time. And so could you review what the process is, and is there parity so that it's a level playing field for people to try and get in?
So yeah, the registration is based on a first come, first served basis. Each school has a day, and sport has a day, and registration opens at 8:30 a.m. And some of the sports fill rather quickly, and some of them you have more time. And we try to have one of those sports that can grow in each season, so that you may, like in the fall, Maybe you don't get your first shot at girls volleyball because it fills within a couple minutes. But most likely you'd have a spot in cross country. Now, again, we understand your first choice may be volleyball, but it's important to us to have an opportunity regardless of the sport to get involved. And so, yes, it's a day and a time selected 8:30 and you can register. I'd say 99% of the time it's online. Kind of tied to that, we do think it's really important that it's not skill based. This is one of the last opportunities students will have to play in an organized sport where skill is not involved. We do have A teams and B teams, but you play regardless if you're registered. Is there some anxiety that we somewhat create by that first come first serve basis? There is, and we are looking at changing it a little bit. Whether so, like you have a week to register, and then we just randomly draw. There's some things that we would have to work out with that because we don't want there to be a lot of anxiety about 8:30 a.m. on this particular day. And so we're trying to avoid that. In most cases, in a lot of the cases, we'll be able to pull a lot of the wait list students, but if we could avoid kind of the rush, we will. But there's a lot of details that have to be worked out with finding a system that works and is fair and for everybody.
Rather than a week, could you have registration open for a couple days?
Yeah. I mean, the idea is just to really have a time frame where everybody can register in that time, and then we draw. Right now, the one of the issues is that to pull people off, it's going to be we have to kind of manually do it. And, there's concerns about how we do that in a timely manner and make sure it's fair for everybody, but we are looking at changing it.
Pull people off, meaning.
So I don't know how into the details we want to get, but to do that system, it'd be like we just register everybody. Basically, everybody goes on a list and we'd have to pull people randomly from that list so that there's no, it is random. But right now that process would have to be done manually. We'd have to pull numbers and pick a person off the wait list and take them. And so there's been some, like the summer registration camp used to be like this. We called it the draw. There was a lot of feedback that wasn't the best process to do. So we don't necessarily want to go back to that exact thing, but if we can find a happy middle ground we just want to relieve some of the anxiety that's caused by the force. Now, ideally, and this is our goal is, it doesn't matter. You register, we'll get you on, but that's not necessarily the reality that we live in right now. And so if we can reduce some of that anxiety, we will. And we're working on some process that will work.
Okay, so the difficulty you're talking about is more of the tools that staff has available to do the lottery.
To make it
lottery.
to really work, yeah.
It's not that there's the public doesn't understand that you've registered a request. It's not like you think you're on the team because you got registered.
Right. And so if you're just right now you register, you make your payment, you're good. If we reverse it, right, then we can't be taking everybody's payments because they may not even make the registration. So then again, we're really getting into the details, but like we'd pull somebody and then we'd have to go collect a payment from them, which can take time, which people might not take. So we are working on it. It is a little bit more complicated than it sounds, but we are trying to make it work.
Just some thoughts that just briefly understanding the payment issue. It sounds like if you had some sort of system set up where people had 24 hours to register and the payment is put in place and it might be easier to reverse within 24 hours, assuming you had a process set up where you could push a button and it spits out the numbers of who's in and who's not. And the technology is there. There's people in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and that might reduce anxiety, but it doesn't reduce the wait list. And so we're putting a little bit more focus on that because we just don't want that many people on the wait list. And if we can reduce that, then they'll reduce some of the pressure to do it quickly.
Thanks. Could you clarify Thank you for that overview. And on another subject, could you clarify which sports are co-ed versus not? You have the table that you shared with us, and some of the sports are listed as girls volleyball. Does that mean to boy, that's only for girls? For basketball, it's separate boys and girls teams?
Yes.
And flag
Oh, yes.
football is
I see. I
combined.
didn't do that. Okay, I apologize. So yeah, there's, let me see if I have there's girls and boys volleyball, co-ed flag football, co-ed cross country, boys and girls basketball, co-ed pickleball, girls volleyball. I already mentioned that. Did I go through? Co-ed tennis, co-ed wrestling, co-ed track and field, co-ed ultimate frisbee. There's just a couple sports that are boy or girl.
And maybe you could just send in a summary. of that,
Absolutely.
because
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great. And there's no Enjoy catalog tie-in with any of this. This is just through the middle schools. Right?
Can you clarify? We publicize in the Enjoy. We have a separate registration day or days.
No, but the middle school sports is that does that have any tie-in with the Enjoy catalog? Is that included?
The registrate, I think they are similar. I mean, they're we do register, and the only real difference is that we have separate registration days for middle school athletics than we do with the rest of the activities in the Enjoy. Does that answer the question?
I'm just wondering, are the middle school sports activities publicized to the community in the Enjoy catalog, or?
Yes, they are.
Okay, great, thank you. Just one other comment I wanted to make. You talked about the prioritization focus on Palo Alto residents. Maybe you can pop up a slide on that. I just wanted to comment that prioritization is based on city policy, and this commission periodically reviews that policy. And in fact, the playing field policy and projects ad hoc will be reviewing related policies over the next few months as part of what the ad hocs are been set up to do.
That is correct. And I think, I mean, it was within my time here at the city where with the commission helped adjust this. There was a caveat between trying out and non-trying out within these caveats that we removed simply because we wanted to make sure that Palo Alto residents who want to try at the different competitive levels they're both important. So yes, the commission does provide some insight into this, and we've worked on making changes.
Thank you. And it's been I would say a very good collaborative process with the community stakeholders, staff leading the way, and the commission as well. Any other comments?
I have one. Actually, two questions. Can a student play more than one sport per quarter?
A student can only play one sport in a season.
In a season?
So yeah,
Yes, that's what I wanted.
that's correct.
That's the first one. And then secondly, I guess I just assumed that these were all middle school students who go to the middle schools in Palo Alto, but it sounds like maybe other kids get to register too?
That's right. It's 99%
see.
students that go to school at these particular schools, but homeschool students can participate as well.
And private school students as well.
That's correct.
And then
I don't think we have any of those,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Then would you say that most of all the swimmers go to right to PASA or to Alto? So because there's no swimming program that you guys run. So we don't run a swimming program. But the basketball could go to AAU basketball, but they stay with middle school as well, right?
So yes, the middle school athletics do not offer a swimming
training
program. We try, and it's some of these sports, we try to stay away from sports that are really kind of heavily done in the,
that's-
like, we don't offer soccer.
Mhm.
There's 6 Palo Alto based soccer clubs that we don't want to compete with.
So that's the same theory.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
It makes sense to stay away from to not apply resources to sports that are already well covered and that you're going to be competing with.
And there
with
are,
difficult
I mean,
doing.
volleyball, basketball, there are a lot of club teams.
Yeah.
But this goes back to the idea that we want to offer something that's not necessarily skilled based.
Mhm.
High school comes, it's skilled based. So we want to offer this to the that maybe just wanting to try a sport. We think
Yeah.
that's super important.
No, it's awesome and the way sports are set up now, it's much more difficult for kids to specialize in or even get experience in multiple sports. And a lot of kids are now kind of tracked in one line, and it's not like it was when we grew up where you had your fall sport, your winter sport, and your spring sport, and there wasn't a whole lot of overlap. Other comments from commissioners?
I just want to say one more thing as we're on the subject, if I could. I think it's great that, Adam, you have such a great attitude about kids trying all sorts of different sports and wanting the experience to be positive. I think that's really, really good. And it seems like this is a huge success. And I'm wondering, Kristen, is this something that we could, I mean, I'm sure they know about it, but kind of share with the city school liaison committee? I mean, it's nice to have a success. And this is clearly a success. Just maybe a mention of it at a committee or something like that.
Sure,
Maybe it's
that's-
not appropriate, but
Yeah.
it's nice to see people working together.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion, and I can talk to the city manager's office who puts that agenda together.
And if it's not appropriate,
yeah.
I totally get it. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion, though. Thank you.
thank
And
you.
I can say that we've reported to that group. It's been a while, but we've
Mhm.
done similar reports to them. But keeping them updated is always important.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Just one other question. On the wait list of 299 people on that list, is that pretty much just the way it fluctuates from year to year? Is that about average? And have you kind of peeled back that number to see if it's the same people end up on that list? There are some things that are more desirable that fill up faster than others. I think you might have mentioned what some of those sport programs are, but I like the lottery system probably would be, would be a better system, but it would be a lot of work, but it might be the best solution. But how does that fluctuate, I guess, from year to year? Let's say in the last 4 years or so.
So hard for the last 4 years with COVID.
Yeah.
I would say these numbers are a little higher than we're used to. Finding coaching and getting coaches on board has been more difficult this year for sure. I mean, it's just been more. I don't have an exact answer as to why that is. There's more opportunities out there. People's schedules have changed, so this is a little bit higher. And this is the first time I think I've seen, like, JLS 6th grade class has been more active than I'm going to say ever. I mean, in my time here, it was a huge participation class. So that's where the numbers there are big, and it's mostly the 6th grade class. I mean, I haven't seen that level. So the good news is that it gives us some time to adapt and be ready for their 7th grade year, because we understand there's a lot there. But it is higher. It's certainly higher than we're comfortable with, and we would prefer not to have it that high. And then I think the other question was which sports fill quickly. I used to be able to pinpoint. They all fill pretty quickly now, which is a testament to how popular the program is, and it's very positive that we have so many people. Girls volleyball was by far our most popular. I would say that's the one you really, really started to hear about people being upset about being on the wait list and how quickly it filled. It used to be, it was, and still is, very quickly. I would say that's the biggest one. It does require indoor space. We have brought temporary nets outside to expand as much as possible. But they really need a lot of indoor space, and there's only so many volleyball courts you can put in a gym. So that used to be it still is the fastest filled, biggest wait list that we have.
And the fee reduction, how does one know that they might be eligible for fee reduction? That's
So we do
advertised?
promote it on our registration forms, and if you qualify for the free and reduced lunch at PAUSD, that qualifies you for the city's fee reduction. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible. I don't know if with COVID, that has become a little bit more complicated because I think people aren't required to actually fill out the paperwork to get the free lunches. So it's an extra step now that they weren't doing because they were already on the free reduction program, but it is a pretty easy step. But otherwise you can provide paperwork to us to get it.
And you
as well.
probably don't have any numbers to look at, say, your wait list based on the number of kids who might be on the fee reduction program.
I don't know. I wouldn't know that.
Is that something you would be able to look at, or?
Possibly. I don't know the answer for sure. I don't know if we can
Okay.
get it that finite.
All right, thank you.
Others? Anyone else? Kristen? Well, thanks again, Adam, for thank you for all you do to organize many herds on it's a great service to the community, and thank you for your passion and your attention to detail on all this.
Thank you all for your support.
And Chair, could I just add one thing, and it's related to the fee reduction program. I wanted to give the commission a heads up that so there's a cap on how much one can. There's a cap on the fee reduction, like a dollar amount per year, and we're increasing that so people don't meet the cap so quickly. So hopefully that will help some of the middle school athletic participants as well.
What is the cap right now? Do you know?
I believe it's $300.
So
So there is some, like, we don't know, but we are looking at, like, could people just be saving it for summer camps? Right? Because, if they're making a choice, are they
Yes.
having to make a choice?
Mhm.
And if we can adapt the program so they don't have to make that choice, we will do so.
and following on that, what's the way that we get contributions into that program?
That's supported through the general fund.
But it could be a possibility to be supported by the community. I mean, maybe it's too.
Yes.
We had looked at that when we looked at fundraising a couple of years ago.
And the Palo Alto Rec Foundation has supported that in the past as well.
Yeah. So that's the way it would go. Yeah. Thank you.
So Palo Alto Rec Foundation has provided scholarship money, or
They have helped offset the cost to the city for providing that support. It's now built into the general fund, but they're still willing to support.
thank you. Anything else? Thanks, Adam.
Sorry, I couldn't bring the crowd. I normally
Your star power is waning.
Yeah.
All right, next up is the Capital Improvement Project CIP update.
Yes, thank you. And I'd like to introduce again Lam Do, Superintendent of Parks, Open Space and Golf. Go ahead, Lam.
Thank you, Kristen, for the introduction. Chair, if you give me a moment here, let me get started here. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, I think we're in full screen mode now. Thank you. Good evening, and thank you, Chair Greenfield, for this opportunity to present to the commission. My name is Lam Do. I'm representing the Division of Open Space, Parks and Golf within the Community Services Department. This evening, I'd like to present to you CIP projects that are preliminarily being proposed in the next upcoming fiscal 5-year cycle, covering fiscal years 2025 through 2029. So to start with, staff and community services, along with staff in public works engineering, have collaborated throughout the year, but more in particular in the last month and a half, to come up with a list of CIPs to propose in this upcoming 5-year cycle. And we spoke with the CIP ad hoc earlier this month to seek feedback from the ad hoc, but now I'd like to further seek feedback from the full commission on the projects being presented, the prioritization of these projects, and assessment of anything that we're missing, but that's not listed that we should consider. And key to this is having a focus on fiscal year 25, even though what's to be proposed is a 5-year cycle, and more on why we're trying to focus on fiscal year 25 in a little bit here. So this review with the commission does fall in the commission's role of advising and planning on policy matters relating to construction and renovation of capital facilities. And so that is why we are reaching out to the commission here. So to start with, if I could sort of define what's the minimum criteria for a capital improvement project, it would be a project that has a minimum threshold cost of 50,000 or more. Anything less would be considered an operation budget. But if for projects that are more than 50,000, they can be proposed as a capital improvement. And they also have to essentially extend the life of an existing asset for at least 5 years, or provide new functionality to that asset. So capital improvement projects in general are proposed on a rolling 5-year capital improvement plan. So as mentioned earlier, the next 5-year cycle is fiscal years 25 through 29. And we're focusing on fiscal year 25. And that reason of that is because when council reviews capital improvement projects that are proposed, they will adopt a 5-year plan in concept, but they will only fund the upcoming fiscal year. So the first fiscal year is what they focus on for funding purposes, and fiscal years 2 through 5 of the rolling 5-year plan is adopted in concept for planning purposes. How we come about prioritizing projects follows numerous criteria, which are listed on your screen here. And they go back to various factors, council priorities, commission priorities, health and safety, and also legal code requirements and other factors that are listed as well. In addition to this, we also take a look, as mentioned in the staff report, what was prepared by an IBRIC committee, Infrastructure Blue Ribbon Commission, for the city. This was prepared about a dozen years ago of projects that are in need of catch up and keep up. So it acknowledged that the city had a backlog of projects to address. And so as a result, we are still occasionally refer to that IBRIC report, Infrastructure Blue Ribbon Commission report, of projects that need either catching up or keeping up. So that's another contributing factor here. So to provide a perspective of, what is a capital improvement project, aside from the minimum threshold that was discussed earlier, you can see here that there are each project is proposed in the capital improvement budget book with a project number, a title, a description, and a justification. In addition to that, there is the financial side of every CIP project. And this includes a funding source. The funding source can vary from a capital improvement fund, which it's for the most part is a general fund. There are also development impact fees. There are also a couple of infrastructure fees that can contribute towards a project. And so those are the various funding sources. Additionally, there is an expenditure side, which covers a construction for a project if a design is needed. In this case, this example here, it lays out which fiscal year, in this case, it's fiscal year 25, where the funding is being requested. And then for projects that span multiple years, there is a tally of what the CIP would cost over a 5-year span as well. Towards the bottom half of this here, we tie in our capital improvement projects towards the comprehensive plan and which elements or which goals and policies that the capital improvement project would correlate to. And then on the right-hand side of the bottom right, it's also if it impacts or would be under the purview of a commission. And these commissions could vary from the Parks and Recreation Commission or the Planning and Transportation Commission. And then there are some that would also possibly need architectural review and other various boards to provide input as well. So before we look into fiscal year 25, I do want to show what our current CIPs look like in regards to what is has been adopted in the fiscal year 24. So this is the fiscal year 24 through 28 5-year cycle, and it consists of about 39 CIPs over the next 3 pages that I'll sort of skim through. But this is coming from the adopted capital improvement project book for fiscal 24. And in this chart, you can see that there, aside from the project title, it gives out the budget estimate and the fiscal year in which the budget is being proposed. And then similarly as the individual pages, it provides a 5-year tally as well. So these projects range that span and this focus here is on projects that primarily impact the community service department within Parks and Open Space. These are projects that encompass what the department works on and also encompasses what the Public Works Department works on. So both Community Service Department and Public Works collaborate together to achieve these projects. Oh, I skipped a page here, sorry. And then lastly, there is a tally of how much these projects are anticipated to cost. So in this example, we're looking at in fiscal year 24 adopted was $10,018,736 for capital improvement projects. And over a 5-year span, we are looking at proposing $44,765,000. So, and of course, as previously mentioned, council only adopts funding for the current fiscal year. And then now moving on to fiscal year 25, which is what the staff in both departments, Public Works and also Community Services are focused on primarily on right now. It says which projects will bring forward in this upcoming fiscal year. Some of the for the most part, they are projects that we had identified previously in the prior 5-year cycle that we will be updating. And the updates can range from a scope update. It could be a change in a fiscal year, either moving a project, pushing it out, or moving it up. Factors that impact whether a project gets pushed out or can vary. It can vary based on limited funding in the near future. And so we have to balance the projects that will fit into the funding that we think that the city can provide us. Or if a project that we had several years ago thought was going to have another lifespan of maybe 2 years, but if it's holding up, perhaps we push it out 3 to 4 years. And so that, in essence, also frees up some money for other projects as well. An example of this would be, a playground, a structure, depending on how much maintenance costs it needs annually. If it's, we kind of judge, okay, it's reached towards the end of its life, but sometimes they don't. And so we can get a little extra life out of it, and sometimes we do. And then the opposite can happen as well. A wooden play structure in particular, that's hard to gauge its lifespan. I mean, it's subject to more to Mother Nature and the condition of the wood posts that are in the ground. So that could also cause an acceleration of project to move up sooner. So here, I have a list of 8 for fiscal 25 on this page, and the next page, 18 CIP projects that were listed on the staff report as well. And they vary from projects that are in parks, projects that are in open space, and then projects are that also at the golf course. In regards to the collaboration between the 2 departments, community services and also the Public Works Department, throughout the year, we collaborate in the planning process, the proposal process, the budgeting process, the bid solicitation process, where we bring in the city's procurement and purchasing department as well. And then once a contract is issued, then there's the project management of the actual construction. So when you see these projects here on these 2 pages, projects that are highlighted in beige at present are tentatively proposed to be primarily managed by the Public Works Department, and the ones that are not highlighted are primarily proposed to be managed by the Community Service Department. How we determine who manages these projects can vary. It varies on the size of the project and the technical expertise needed. Some projects require a lot of engineering knowledge, which resides mostly in Public Works Engineering. And some projects are smaller or more simple, where Community Services Department staff and Parks can manage it. And so it's more just selecting the right contractor and ensuring that the contractor follows the scope as planned. So it varies. And then another factor is also bandwidth. The 2 departments work together to discuss what we have on the slate upcoming and how much we can or cannot handle. And sometimes we push projects off. I shouldn't say push. We ask the other department to take over a project. And sometimes this discussion also ends up, neither department is able to manage a project in a planned year, and we sometimes have to push it out because of bandwidth. So projects are always in flux for many reasons. In flux either because of bandwidth, project planning, budget, scope, and funding. Many reasons for projects to be in flux. Next, although we want to focus on fiscal 25, as reported in the attachment B of the staff report, there is also, it is a 5-year cycle. So in the 5-year cycle, we have about 35 projects that we are looking to propose. And so this page and the following page shows 35 projects and adjacent to which fiscal year we have them slated. So we can, it's not necessarily a particular methodology to slate a project. It's, as previously mentioned, it can vary for any reason, how and when we are able to complete a project. So. And then in addition to what you've seen in the fiscal 25 and also in the 5-year cycle, there are 6 projects that are annually proposed. And these projects are not really site specific, with the exception of perhaps the lake and pond maintenance one. That is mostly Baranda Lake. But overall, they have to do with repair and maintenance instead of a specific scope that has to do with designing of a new playground and or a comprehensive plan. So these are 6 ongoing projects that are proposed annually in addition to each fiscal year. Lastly, the CIP ad hoc and staff in both departments have also identified about 8 CIP needs that are identified, and they're not yet currently in the 5-year CIP plan. And it's for various reasons. These reasons have to do with things such as these projects need in-depth scope development. They may need community outreach for further input, or the funding source needs to be identified. So these are projects which we've identified, but we have not put in a CIP plan. So, and going back to what I mentioned earlier, although the focus is on fiscal year 25, we also would like feedback from the commission in regards to projects that perhaps we've left out or omitted, or projects that you think that could be added to this list as well, for future consideration as well. And then moving on to the timeline of how CIPs are proposed, and move on through the process to being adopted. So we have in the November timeframes, the city staff will begin planning for the next 5-year cycle. And then we discuss this with the ad hoc committee as well for CIPs. And then this month and in the next month as well, we formally submit these CIPs to the Office of Management Budget. And it's not just us, but it's actually all city departments will in January be submitting their CIP requests. In February and March, the Office of Management and Budget will review citywide proposals, and they'll make recommendations. The recommendations will go to the city manager's office, typically in April. And around that March and April timeframe, the city manager meets with each various departments, the department heads, to discuss what their respective departments' proposals and which projects will be moving forward in a proposed plan that'll come from the city manager. That proposed plan then gets presented to council, and then from there, city council will then ask a finance committee to review the plan. But in between that, between the April presentation of a proposed budget to the full council and the finance committee hearings on the CIP, there is also the Planning and Transportation Commission review of the citywide capital improvement plans. The Planning and Transportation Commission's role is to ensure that our CIPs comply with the city's comprehensive plan. After finance committee's review of the capital plan, then it's a recommendation from the finance committee to the full council to adopt a 5-year plan, and that adoption occurs towards the end of June. And upon adoption, that's when we have we anticipate having a fiscal budget for the upcoming fiscal year 25. With that, the presentation is concluded. However, we set aside quite a lot of time here for our discussion. So welcome to start the discussion.
Lom, thank you for the detailed presentation and for summarizing things in the way you have to try and make it understandable. The CIP process is complicated, and the more you see it, the number of years that you work on it and become part of the CIP process, it becomes easier to follow, but it's a lot to grasp at the beginning for people. I really appreciate that. We may have different levels of questions on understanding how the process works.
Yes.
Before we go to, are there any clarifying, do we have any members of the public who'd like to speak?
There are no hands raised online or in person.
Okay, so if any members of the public would like to speak, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we can go to questions and comments. Mandy, as a member of the CIP ad hoc, do you have any? Do you want to start off?
Sure. I just want to thank you for the great presentation. And I think I just want to kind of narrow the scope of this conversation, because I think when we have these lists of projects in front of us, it can seem like we want to do it all in the first year. And I always try to be more realistic rather than aspirational. There will always be projects that are backlogged and that we don't get done in the first year and that will carry over, usually for bidding reasons or staff capacity issues. So I really just want to remind my fellow commissioners of the scope that I think you articulated very well in the staff report of giving feedback on the projects that have been presented, prioritizing, are they in the right year based on our understanding of the projects and the needs, and then the gaps and missing projects that maybe aren't listed. Understanding that slide 14 with the skate park and the wellness center and those other large projects also take up a lot of that staff capacity that bumps projects from year 1 to 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So just trying to be mindful of that. In addition to executing these projects, they're also doing the day-to-day jobs of doing a regular budget and operating the department and providing the services that we just heard such wonderful things about from Adam. So I think that it was very well presented. I liked the order and the prioritization. It fits with, I think, our understanding, and I would just err on the side of keeping that year 1 more realistic than aspirational rather than trying to cram more things in there. I think there's some items on there like the family changing room design that we're seeing sort of in that year 1 now that we'd like to see actually come to fruition. So I'm in favor of how it's been presented, and thank you for the great work.
If I could say, the input coming from the CIP ad hoc did help in regards to the report this year, in regards to how the presentation was prepared. So kind of going back to what Chair Greenfield said earlier as well, is it's gone through a lot of iterations. So I hope this is an iteration that works for the commission, and welcome the feedback, positive, negative as well.
Thank you. Commissioners who aren't part of the CIP, do you have where would you like to start with questions? Ellis?
Yeah, again, great presentation, very well laid out, easy to understand. I know you mentioned that a lot of the projects happen, it's a 5-year plan.
Yes.
What happens if they, something that's in, let's say fiscal year 2024, and when you laid out that timeline where that's to go through these different iterations, which seems like that takes a half a year before the project could even start. So the funding is, let's say, for a project that's going to start in 2024, the funding is approved for 2024, but that project might roll in, well, might not even get started until like maybe the 3rd quarter, and now you're into 2025. The funding from the previous year, does that roll over into the next year?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. There are various factors on when a project can start. The factors vary between the bidding process. We do have some complicated bids. We do have bid protests that we have to address as well. And then there's also the factor of the engineering estimate and the funding that we have versus the actual bids that come in. So if everything aligns well, then a project is then at the next thing to look at is the season of work. So for example, courts, when we are redoing tennis courts, we need it to be in the warm season. When we are doing work in open space, we have to be aware of bird nesting season. So there are sort of blackouts when we can't do the work. Artificial turf, we need same things. Another where we need really warm weather because the glue that adheres the various turf rolls just needs really warm weather for a day, 2 days to really adhere and last, 8 years. So those are various factors. In regards to if we're not able to complete a project in a fiscal year for any reason, whether it be bidding, contracting, seasonality, or staff bandwidth, the staff does have the opportunity to work with the Office of Management and Budget to, as you say, roll over. It's called a reappropriation process, where we let them know that these were funds that council had approved. However, we were not able to make use of the funds for XYZ reasons, and as a result, we asked for that they be reappropriated. It's the reappropriation then creates a master list citywide, and that master list is also brought back to the council for the council to review what staff is asking to be reappropriated from one fiscal year into the next upcoming fiscal year.
So even though we might be doing the prioritization, it could still change based on some of the factors, especially the community services group, where we have a lot of different things that are based on, seasonality and other things
Yes.
that can actually further delay or even change, I guess, the prioritization. So
Absolutely. What you have before you is keywords preliminary. And as you say, it's a 6-month process, which was outlined in the timeline.
Yeah.
But we're early on in that 6-month process. This, I would hope that, the overwhelming majority core that's in here makes it to the final proposal that the city manager will package together for full council review. I don't know at this point. I do know that we'll be making our ask and our request this coming month, and then we are up against other departments, and we're up against what is this city's financial status, and what is can be carved out towards capital improvement projects department-wide and citywide.
last question. So what has happened historically, I guess, in the past? Let's say we were doing this 2 years ago, a year ago. How
I will use Bigsby Park for an example. Bigsby Park is a multi-million-dollar project that has been pushed out, started, completed in certain phases, and now pushed out another 2 years, I believe. And there are reasons behind that. And this is an example where the scope of the final phase has changed. The Baylands Comprehensive Plan has an impact on that scope. The Baylands Comprehensive Plan may change what was initially envisioned to be one of the final phases. Other things that can change is because it's a large dollar item. We went through a number of years during the onset of COVID, where the city budgets were very constrained, and so it wasn't the right time to pursue and continue some of our projects. Not necessarily Bixby, but other projects. It didn't make sense to really jump into these projects at the time. So they've been delayed, or some of them have been canceled, or I shouldn't say canceled. Some of them have been unfunded or defunded, and perhaps can be brought back in the future.
all right, thank you.
Thanks. I'll just make a couple quick comments just to reiterate what you've given us in terms of the schedule of things. Next month, the CIP budget will be forwarded to the OMB. And so
Yes.
really, this is the key time for the commission to have input, which staff can consider before it leaves the doors. That's why we schedule this review at this time of the year. It's a relatively narrow window where staff has enough information to put the projects in front of us to be able to review, and for us to have time to offer input before things move along in the various steps of the process. And I don't know if it's a question for you or for Kristen. Nell's kind of touched on this in terms of what usually happens in terms of the budget, and I'd say overall in the big picture, there's pretty good success of things moving forward without major changes, but a lot of that depends on the general budget status of the city and the bigger picture. And can you make any comments on where the city budget overall budget projections are at this time? I mean, is this a good year? Is this a bad year? Is this a in between year?
Yo, I can take it, yeah, yeah.
Because usually we have a sense of what's coming our way. It's not a surprise.
So what has been reported in the press is that the city is in good health. That doesn't necessarily mean that that is as accurate, or that doesn't necessarily mean that that good health is going to funnel into CIP projects. So I would say, to answer your question more directly, is we haven't been given an amount that we're working with. In going back pre-COVID, we typically did get sort of a citywide amount that the city thinks that could be attributed from the general fund towards capital improvement projects. But since the onset of COVID and the city is struggling financially, that has not occurred. So staff right now at present, we are operating based on what we think our needs are, independent of the city's financial status. So I don't have a great answer for you, but one of the things that we discussed previously is that perhaps when we get more information, we can go back to the at CIP ad hoc with the information of what we propose, how much we propose it for, and what financial status we have from the city. And I hope that, I'm
No,
sorry, that
thanks.
doesn't
The-
provide a
the
great response
question-
for you, but I hope I can.
The question really is what clues can you share with us? And I think you've done that.
So the Finance Committee on beginning of December 5th, December 5th, they were presented with the long-range financial forecast. So that would be, you can watch the presentation and read the staff report there. So that would give you probably the most insight into how the city's viewing the future for finances.
Thank you. Other commissioners? Sure.
So tapping into that, so when you said that the city is in good health, and those projects can be approved and funded, but you might not necessarily have the resources, because you have to kind of project whether or not you have the resources to actually manage those projects.
That's
So,
correct.
I mean, so does those things sort of align together when?
There are times when the things do align, but our experience lately has been that they have not aligned. And if I were to assume when you say resources, you're referring to staff resource. So staff resource has been an issue for us, an ongoing issue for us. It continues to be an issue for us. And as a result, we have found that actually more of late, we've had to reappropriate and carry forward projects forward because we were not able to complete them. And so I think going back to what Vice Chair Brown's started in her initial comments is that perhaps we should be looking at what's realistic and what we think we can accomplish, acknowledging that in the past we have had to carry forward projects.
Yeah.
Part of it's kind of common sense. Ask for money that you think you can spend. And as opposed to being wishful, which doesn't usually work out so well. Other commissioners?
Yes, please.
Ann?
Thank you. The chair, you talked about going to the OMB in February and March. Can you talk a little bit about how on the slides it said that they make recommendations and of anything about the criteria that they use to either approve or put aside those projects?
I will, not speaking for their behalf, but
No.
typically it falls under the criteria that I sort of outlined in the beginning, with one other caveat is that there's a heavy emphasis on funding availability. So the Office of Management budget is not necessarily reviewing projects for their validity. I mean, it's for the department to propose valid projects. They are looking and balancing projects in regards to how much the city can support financially these projects.
Thank you. And then just to make sure that I'm understanding the chart here, on the first page of the preliminary proposed CIP projects, they're all the way down are the dog park installations and renovations. And so do we read that there is money in fiscal year 26 and 28 for dog park renovations?
Oh, I believe
that-
you're, yes,
Is
you're,
that the right way to, it's just a matter of understanding the chart.
yes.
me.
The dog park renovation installation CIP is funded every other year. The source of funding, but it is dependent on the source of funding. This one is not a general fund project. This one is based on development impact fees. And so we are looking at projections of the overall impact fees running low. So for now, we're still planning on projects, funding the project every other year, subject to the availability of the pool of funds.
Okay.
So for planning purposes, we're still looking at every other year.
So I'm reading that correctly.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Joy.
Just to say thank you for sharing this with us. It's a lot of information that I still need to take in.
Yes.
And most likely, if I have more questions, I'll reach out to you directly.
Yes, that's fine.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I did, right, if anything that comes out after this meeting, staff is still open to receiving feedback.
Thank you. I have some questions. I'm curious what what the expenditures has been for the art in public spaces over FY 23 and 24. Looks like it started as a 2.3 million budget in 23, which rolled over and became 1.7 million in 24. Do you know what this expenditure was for?
I do not know specific projects. The Art in Public Spaces program, it provides public art throughout the city. So my initial thoughts would be, but I could not tie the $800,000 expenditure to specific projects. But these are the permanent and the temporary installations throughout the city during the year.
And what catches my eye is the typical projected budget or the approved budget approved projections from the last budget was 137K, 102, 105, 129 for the years following. So the number 2.3 million is out of scale. So I'm just curious what it's for. If you just give that.
Sure. And I think I'll provide what knowledge I have, which is limited. And being that this is typically not within the scope of the Division of Open Space Parks and Golf, because this is for public art. Unfortunately, it has to be classified somewhere in the budget book.
I see.
So it lands here, but it's really not managed by us.
It's over the overall art.
Yeah.
As opposed to art in
So
parks and open space.
Yeah, and I can add it's, so new projects that are coming up, so the Fire Station 4, we'll have public art and, well, for example, the public safety building has quite a bit of art, so they're associated with any municipal project, and any private development that meets certain criteria.
So I think part of your question, Chair, earlier was, how is that funding, that 2.3 million, how is it allocated? And the future years.
It's not a question about funding. It's just curious about what projects. What did we get for that? Great to see that the Rinconada Pool changing room is on the list as we talked about. The Foothills Dam seepage project rolled over. That's a more of a dollars for an investigation to study that. Can you provide more information what that's about?
Yes, the dam has an ongoing seepage. So at present, to address the seepage, we repump the water that seeps out from the dam back into the lake. And short of having a study done and completed on what's causing the seepage, it's unknown. And we have a temporary sort of stopgap to address the issue, but we don't have a cause. And so this is to initiate finding out what the cause is for this ongoing seepage.
And is this a seasonal problem or,
No, this is year round.
and so it's seeping out in the area at the base of the dam? Or-
I apologize. I don't know exactly where the seepage manifests itself or sort of repercolates up. I should percolate when we go down, I guess, where it seeps up. Wrong use of the term.
If you could share more information about that, the next department report, that.
Sure, I'll check with my colleagues in the Public Works Department and get information about this here.
The restroom implementation has been slow. And so we're working to get a number of, a lot of the projects have been in the queue for a while. Is that's not, how is that reflected in the CIP budget? And does that have any impact on how we plan future restrooms, which are, again, typically a plan for on an every other year basis, similar to the dog parks in ideally in opposing years?
Right, so we have not been able to install new park restrooms every other year as the funding comes in. However, we have rolled over and reappropriated the prior year's fundings to pool a larger amount. So coming online in this fiscal year and next are restrooms at Ramos, at Cubberley, and also at Bulware. So those are 3 restrooms that will be coming online using various funding, the bulk of which is the restroom funding that was every other year, which we've carried forward.
Speaking of restrooms, is there a reason why the Magic Bridge continues to be a little bit far out? It seems like there's a huge need there.
Yes. We actually have the design and being proposed in this coming fiscal year 25.
So that's a year from now.
This upcoming fiscal year,
Okay.
which would be the design process.
The design is FY25 and implementation.
The plan is for implementation, construction to be in fiscal year 26.
And just to review what FY25 means.
Yes, the city's fiscal year starts in July 1st through June 30th of the following year. So when we're talking fiscal year 25, what that means is July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025.
Right, so the fiscal year number is the year you end up in when the plan's done, or when the year is done.
Yes.
Okay. Something we've talked about with Darren, I previously is the Foothills Buckeye Creek maintenance issue. Obviously, there's bigger plans awaiting funding for naturalizing the creek, but in the meantime, there's potential maintenance issues, the gabions and the structures.
Yes.
They have been on the 5-year plan. They've fallen off of the 5-year plan. And you popped up the slide that calls them out. Are they and you mentioned this slide is either something that needs funding, needs better definition, or various other issues, or is it falling off as a matter of funding, or not
No.
sure what to do, or?
It's being addressed twofold. So there, in this slide that you have in front of you here, there is a Foothills Nature Preserve improvements, which are being funded for fiscal year 25, 27, and 28. These improvements cover various categories. These improvements cover pedestrian pathways. This covers bridges, and it also covers design and study of improvements specific to Buckeye Creek, such as the gabions.
So that is covered under it.
It's the design of it. Now, the solution, the long-term solution would also need a funding source, but that I think is where we're looking at Buckeye Creek improvements. That's not specifically on the CIP plan, because we only right now have a CIP to study, design, and plan for the actual improvements.
Okay, and what fiscal year are we expecting the design to happen in? Because when it just says improvements, it's it's not, it's kind of opaque.
Yeah, unfortunately, that particular CIP was two CIPs that got merged. So it's fiscal year 27, 28 that's going to be the key focus.
So why did two CIPs get merged? And and I'm asking the question because it's reducing transparency. But why not leave them as separate CIPs where it's more clear to see what they're addressing?
Well, in the description, LOM had showed an example page that would be clearly described in the project description in the budget book.
Okay. And this, so we have access, we can see that budget book from the FY24 budget that was approved?
That's correct.
And it's called out in that?
That's correct.
Thanks. Thanks again for including this information. Just one comment related to the slide you're on. I think it would be helpful to include a column that shows FY24 as well, so that we can see which projects have had funding approved for the year that we're in as we're moving forward. I know we're talking about making recommendations on the future, but it's helpful to see where we are as well. So maybe just shading it differently or something.
Thank you.
Would be useful. Any other questions or comments?
I guess another thought would be whether or not like we have fiscal year 25, but that project could go into 26, 27. I don't know if that's something, if that would just make the chart a little bit too busy, but would be nice to know when it starts and the estimated time that it'll be completed.
I think in looking back, we have in each CIP page in the upper right, there is that green box. There is initial project start date and initial project completion, and then a revised project start and a revised project completion. And I think that could be a reference for not just the commission, but for anyone in the public that's looking at the CIP profile. So if it's if a CIP changes from when it was initially planned. So there's an initial project and then a revised project date.
Okay.
There's a lot of useful information on these project pages, and but it's not very convenient to scroll onto each project page as you're looking at things in a chart. And I'm wondering if there's be a potential way in the future to add a little wider spreadsheet for us to look at.
I
Or be able to click on a link and go right to that page.
Yes, there is. So to start with Chair Greenfield's suggestion, I struggled because the wider you made it, it just there's not a whole lot of real estate on each of these presentation pages, and adding another column or two sort of knocked other information off.
I'm actually thinking more about what would appear in a staff report,
Sure,
which would be information that we could look at.
Okay. Yes.
before coming in.
So in more detail for Commissioner Freeman's question is a link. So let me see here. The in the online version, which is linked to the staff report, there is under the table of contents, there's a list of all of these projects, and that's also linked. So it's going back to the link, and that link is to the entire proposed budget book for fiscal year 24. And then with it, I think it's page 8 or 9 is the table of contents with, and then it lists all the parks and open space projects by name and the page that it's on in the CIP budget book, the online version. And then the online version is also a hyperlink by project name to the actual project page.
Yeah, it's a 736 page document.
Right.
It's cumbersome.
Yeah. So you're right, but using the hyperlinks, it does help a lot.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, thank you. I hope that there's been some feedback that's been useful for you.
Yes.
And
Yes, thank you.
thank you for all your time and effort put into this.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members of the commission.
Next up is our ad hoc and liaison updates. We've had a little shorter interval since our last meeting. Does anyone have any updates they'd like to share? I can start by sharing a few on the Hawthorne's Mid-Penn area planning. There was a public meeting on Saturday, a 4-day meeting, a 4-hour meeting, not 4 days. And there was also on a site tour a few weeks before that. That's progressing along. Former Commissioner David Moss was there speaking regarding connectivity. Regarding urban forestry, staff is getting ready to send an updated recommendation to City Council for review after that passed through the Parks and Rec Commission and also the Planning and Transportation Commission. So there's some updates to the recommendation that I've reviewed and provided comment on. The master plan ad hoc looks forward to picking up again in the new year. Obviously, the ad hoc, or that same committee met to review the ad hoc, the CIP information. So that's a responsibility of the master plan ad hoc as well. Anything else?
I can just give a quick Lom just left, but on golf, not a lot of changes, just he indicated that staff remains in communications with the State Water Board and the ecology consultants. So I guess we'll know more about that hopefully at the next meeting to know what the timeline is on that. The golfers are continuing to be reminded to stay out of the wetlands, and I guess we haven't had any complaints, at least in the news media, so it seems to be working. That's pretty much it from a golfing perspective.
Is there any update on the agreement of the first team?
No, nothing at all. So do you know anything about?
I don't know a lot. So there's, we're working with, and I'm assuming you're meaning the long-term partnership agreement.
Right.
So, I believe LOM is working through a different agreement right now related to fees. And once that's resolved, then they'll focus on the long-term partnership
So the fees have to do with T?
with the current fees, yeah. Mhm.
Any other comments? Please. It's a, like I said, we just had a few weeks, 3 weeks since the last interview or interval, and expect that the ad hocs will be taking a little bit of a break for the rest of the year, but picking up uh, like the rest of the country, beginning of the new year.
Well, Chair Kristen already reported about the public meeting that will be held in the community at Mitchell Park on the 17th of January. So I think we're looking forward to that and listening to the community. And I really like the way the announcement was made. So that's good. And I hope there'll be a really good attendance. So thank you for that. And I don't really have anything else because aquatics was just here and it was a great middle school report. And grants, we continue to talk to various people around Silicon Valley about potential grants, not with any kind of success, but just learning a lot. So we're not going to be ready to have any kind of report in the near future so.
Okay,
Sure.
let's move on to Commissioner Board Member questions, comments, announcements, and then we'll talk about our future agenda. First off, any questions, comments, or announcements from anyone? Okay, let's talk about our upcoming agenda. So for January, we will get a presentation from staff regarding the bike and pedestrian transportation plan update. And this is has obviously correlation to impacts on and items called out within our Parks Master Plan. So looking forward to that. A number of things are possibilities. I think a golf presentation is likely.
I'll check with Lum tomorrow.
Yep. Thank you. Nellis, regarding e-bikes, I know that you're looking to meet with Payback, the pedestrian and bike advisory committee
Right.
before coming to the commission.
We're hoping we can have a meeting with them before we finish up before we present to the PRC, so.
Okay.
So,
Um,
so the
Let me
question,
know if you need assistance scheduling something.
so the question is, can we get a meeting scheduled with Payback so that we could have a presentation in January, since the bike and ped transportation plan will be in January. It'd be cohesive to include an e-bike update at the same meeting if possible.
Yeah, I think, well, yeah, I mean, we wanted to make sure that we sort of provided them with kind of where we are.
Sure.
With that, so. I think you were gonna reach out, I think. No,
Let's talk.
well, yeah, if you can schedule, with the chair and the co-chair with them, I guess
Okay.
should be enough.
So are you going through transportation staff on that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
So would we be able to have any kind of report from the community meeting? Or would you just like to have us give it as part of the ad hoc report?
I'm sorry, are you talking about the
Discussion from the wellness,
Or-
the Recreation Wellness Center, AKA gym.
Yep, yeah, so
Community
that was my next question. So we certainly want to have we're looking forward to the public meeting on that. I don't know if we have time, if there's time for staff to process the feedback from the public meeting and develop a presentation for us in January. I'm hoping that we'll be getting an update in January or February. Mandy?
Can I suggest, just because of the timing, that we do an informal ad hoc report in January and then have another opportunity to have it agendized in February? That way there's another public input. We could even mention it during the January community meeting about having it discussed at the Park
Sure,
and
I think
Recreation
that, I
Commission
think that works
meeting.
really
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
because there's not enough time to get it on the agenda.
Yeah.
But I don't think we want to skip it either.
Yeah. I agree with that. That sounds great. The Foothills Nature Preserve PIO was going to be coming to us sometime soon. So that's a possibility if staff is ready to present on that. On staffing, and so I'll just listen. We're listing items that we'll follow up with staff and finalize the agenda, which is typically the process. We're also looking to get the recreation program review ad hoc to give us an update. Joy, do you have I think that's probably not January, but looking more possible for February or what?
Yeah, maybe February. Thank you.
Okay. It'd be good to look to finalize 3 agenda items for January. Definitely have the BPTP bike and ped transportation plan. I suspect that golf would be available and would have flexibility as well if we're also looking potentially at e-bikes and foothills if those two both came in and golf could slip to February. Otherwise, we'll have golf next month.
Okay, sure. And you might have more complete data in February just because, you know, the books close at the end of the year, but I'll talk to Lom and I mean, we can always caveat the presentation with that. So,
Typically, we've had a golf presentation in December or January.
okay.
Okay.
At the last meeting, I had mentioned to Darren about the possibility of having someone from the JMC to provide us with a presentation to let us know what are some of the challenges that they're having and whether or not we as a commission can help them in any way. So maybe I don't know if that's something we can look at adding to the agenda sometime in the future.
So, well, I will start by saying I think that would be an informational item. It's a little stretch, I think, for the Parks and Rec Commission.
In terms of outside of our purview.
Right.
Yes.
That said, we are in the process of doing a consultant is putting together, we're calling it a business plan. It's really a plan to help guide operations into the future. And we could also, the one that's completed, report on that, just on the findings there. So we can continue the conversation and see what the right timing might be.
And I was looking at it more from an informational perspective than
Okay.
anything else, I guess.
Sure.
And I think we can serve as a helpful conduit to the community in terms of providing this information.
Definitely.
So that might be February, March, or how far along out is the consultant work?
Probably March or April.
Great. Anything else from anyone?
I did have a question on the retreat. Do you normally do a retreat at the beginning of the calendar year?
So traditionally, when I would say typically we do the retreat following the reorganization of the
Mhm.
commission. In this year's case, there's no commissioner terms that are expiring.
Mhm.
So the reorganization would be the chair and vice chair. And so I think what we've just discussed at our previous retreat and when our cycle changed and the terms of the commissioners changed from expiring on December 15th to March 31st of the following year. We'll start with a reorganization meeting in April and look to hold our retreat in early May. And then the May meeting is focused to CIP, our work plan.
Okay, so you're,
Which needs to be presented to the city council the following month. I think,
okay,
given the cycle that we're in and when the terms begin and end, we're on a tight schedule in
Mhm.
terms of completing our work plan.
okay,
But thanks for asking.
sure. I know they used to be beginning of the calendar year, so I understand the change.
And the reorganization meeting was at the beginning of the
Right,
calendar
right.
year as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll call this meeting to a close. Thank you, everyone, and happy holidays, everyone, and happy New Year's. And wishing everyone a safe and healthy New Year. Look forward to seeing you in 2025. Yeah, 2024. You got CIP fiscal years